Improving at Rocket League can feel overwhelming. You watch the pros pull off insane mechanics, but when you try the same thing, it feels out of reach. Believe me, I know the struggle because I've been there. That's why I built the Grand Champ Bootcamp. It's now the #1 coaching service in Rocket League, where I've brought some of the best pros in the world to help players like you improve and rank up faster every day. Over the years, I've learned that ranking up isn't just about flashy mechanics. That's why I had to talk with the former pro and Season 6 World Champion on Cloud9, Torment. He built his career on elite gamesense, positioning, and making the right choices under pressure. Skills that earned him over $325,000 over his career. So before anything, open up Freeplay right now. Grab your controller or keyboard and mouse or piano if that's what you play on, because this is not just a podcast. Today, Torment is going to give a masterclass on the select few skills that propelled him to the top ranks in Rocket League. And it's not the same advice of just grind free play and go back post. In fact, Torment's playstyle and training strategy, I learned, is completely opposite to what most people are saying. And that's exactly the playstyle and strategy he's gonna break down for you today. These are the things most people don't talk about, that if you steal, you will win. Without any further wait, welcome Torment. Welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the Freeplay Podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me. It's good to be here. It's good to chat.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. There's a massive debate in Rocket League, mechanics versus game sense. You got to play with Squishy when the mechanical ceiling, I would say, was being broken for the first time. Now it's been broken 10 times. And so I've always wanted to ask you, mechanics versus game sense, where do you stand in the debate?
I mean, look, if you look at me as a player, if you knew my career, you know, I was very centered around game sense rotations. I actually won the Reliable Rotator Community Award for 2022 or something, like the fan vote. I don't even know. Like, I was only known for my rotations and like defense, which is like a lot of rotation and positioning stuff is just what goes into defense and makes you a good defender. So that's definitely my side of it. Obviously, I would love to have the mechanics that some of these other players have, and the best players in the world have both. Like, think of the Zens, the Daniels, etc. They excel at both, and that's why they're so good. I mean, I don't really know which one's better per se. I don't think you could get very far with just mechanics, and if you're just a freestyler, but you maybe could get far if you just had super good fundamental mechanics and game sense. I think that's like the best combo to kind of start as a base, and then you start adding in kind of the flair and the flashiness, you know, whatever you want.
Right. You teamed with Beast Mode, yes. Squishy, among others. What is the dynamic like? If I'm watching and I'm the mechanical player, or if I'm watching and I'm, let's be honest, not the mechanical player, and I'm playing with my friends, what could I learn from you?
Well, if your teammates aren't necessarily Beast Mode or Squishy level, I wouldn't try to play like me. That's kind of how I was able to get away with it for the time. And I kind of got molded into that because they naturally would just want the ball more, and I would let them have the ball more because they were better with the ball. So obviously that helped. I think you want to have a more even rotation generally. Like, I had a good rotation, but I would allow them to, the times when you would normally come in and take the ball, I would just be like, if they could cut in, I would just let them take it. Because again, more effective on the ball than I was. So you probably don't want to necessarily exactly copy my play style, because it was kind of, at least with those teammates, I had a span when I was kind of when I was with neither of them, and I had to kind of do my own thing and try to create myself. I would definitely say just like consistent rotations and playing around your teammates is a skill that you should learn. And that was kind of what I was good at, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you this then. You've been molded that way because you played with those players. If you got spawned back into the Rocket League world right now when you were 13 years old, never picked up a controller, keyboard, never played the game before, what would you do the same? What would you do differently? How would you approach ranking up and getting better at this game, going pro for the second time?
Yeah, I would definitely be hard grinding 2s and 1s, especially 2s, because that's kind of how you get noticed. Just beating the best players in 2s, and especially if you're young, people kind of factor that in because they're like, oh, the potential is there, right? You're still inexperienced, and you kind of start growing into yourself as a player when you get 14, 15, 16. That's kind of what happened to me. Obviously, that was when the game first came out because, you know, kind of an unk in this game's time span now, and when I used to be young. But nowadays, like, those new players that are coming up, like, they start peaking around 15, 16, just getting your name out there and just being a hard 2s and 1s grinder. And then, obviously you could throw in like an all-CS team and play some 6-mans, but it's mostly 2s and 1s gets you noticed and gets you on the map.
Really? 2s and 1s. It makes sense to me, but when I watch professional players and when I watch every big tournament, it's always 3v3. So why are you playing 2s and 1s to get noticed?
I think 2s gives you a lot more ball time. Obviously 1s gives you the most ball time, but a lot of people get just tilted with 1s and it's a little more annoying. And again, you don't really have a teammate you could just blame or whatever, or rely on at the same time. Some people don't like it. I think it's good for the practicing some things like your shadow defense, individual like outplays, like in one-on-one up situations, obviously. And 2s gives you a lot more ball time than 3s, while also adding in the rotation aspect, playing around a teammate, supporting a challenge, setting up your teammates as well. Obviously, in 1s, every play kind of has to end with you either scoring or keeping possession and pressure, or you're getting counterattacked basically and getting scored on. So 2s kind of mixes in both really well. That's why I think it's the most popular and probably the best to grind, I would say. 1s is good as well, but I think 2s is the best to grind.
Right. If you only had an hour a day to play the game, or an hour or two, let's say like most folks, what does that mean for how would you approach improving between the game modes, let's say?
Yeah, I could definitely relate to this a little bit because I had a time in my career where I only did like free play and didn't play ranked and did some scrims. Obviously, I was scrimming with my team, but when I tried to focus on only free play, it worked for a bit, but I would get slower. Like I would get into games and I wouldn't be able to keep up with the pace, but my mechanics would be okay, but I would just be slow. Because when you're in free play, no one's testing you, right? You're on your own. So I wouldn't free play a whole lot. It's just to practice specific things. I would definitely focus more on being in the game. And then also when you're in the game, going for things and trying things. And maybe you care about your rank a lot and you maybe want to do some casual. But to be honest, I think the best mental is to not even care that much about your rank and just focus on the improvement, right? And pushing your boundaries, I guess.
Yeah. So you would lean into, you do a little bit of free play to learn new things, more mechanics, et cetera, but you would lean into play more 2s and 1s and don't treat it like, oh, I'm trying to rank up. Just treat it like I'm trying to challenge myself as much as possible every game.
Yes. Especially, obviously, I had the kind of the advantage of being a pro from the start. So my rank didn't really matter. Again, rank does actually matter for going pro because if people see you high up and they're winning, they might give you more looks, more tryouts. But when I was coming up, obviously I don't really care about my rank and I'm just here. Just playing well would make me feel good. Even if I played well and I lost, or maybe I played bad and I won, I would be disappointed versus like vice versa. So yeah, definitely just focusing on the improvement it's just a good mentality to have too, because if you're just getting angry over ranked points, also it's just going to be kind of counterproductive to your progress. So
it's hard to make it to SSL if you're tilting in Diamond 2, Diamond 3.
Yes, definitely gonna be very hard. Uphill battle.
You hinted at this a little bit. Free play. I feel this way. People ask me all the time, Luke, I do a lot of free play. I'm strong at free play. I feel like I can hit stuff in free play. I get into ranked games. People are early challenging me, ball chasing, my teammates taking the ball off me, or I just can't hit mechanics in game like I can hit them in free play. Is that just a myth or an aura that we all feel, or is there something real to that?
No, that's definitely real. I mean, the first thing is the no pressure factor. Like if you're in free play, there's no kind of downside if you mess up your play. So it makes it easier for you to just be confident and just go for it, right? Versus in 2s, 1s, or any game mode, I guess, you mess up and there's, kind of, side effects or like you get punished, right? So that's definitely a factor. Also, other factors, obviously, a lot of people free play with unlimited boosts and can just use the boost as they want versus controlling it. And but it's mostly a mental thing. It's definitely mostly a mental thing, and that's why you want to try things in game, right? Because if you're good at something in free play, that's great. But if you get in game and you can never do it, it's probably because maybe you don't go for it enough and you don't push yourself, I guess.
Okay, we've already covered a lot about how to rank up, but I want to pause for a moment and ask you something. If you could talk one-on-one with a pro like Torment, what would you ask? The reason I ask is because if you're Diamond, Champ, or Grand Champ, my team of pro coaches, including Torment, will help you rank up in 4 weeks or less with one-on-one coaching. Many people, include me, fanboy for a picture with a world champion. But what if you could sit in a call like this with that world champion and have them one message away on your phone? That's exactly what my GCB Pro Bootcamp does. And Torment is coming on to personally coach a small group of just 10 players over the next 30 days. Spots are extremely limited, and the first 5 who join get 50% off. So if you want in, join my free Discord and hit the open ticket button to apply before they're gone. And I'll see you inside. I want to switch to talking about getting mechanical now versus then. You've teamed with players who are incredibly mechanical. And when we spotlight players like Squishy or Beast Mode who you've teamed with and say they're mechanical, compared to the average person, Torment, you are insanely mechanical. You are in the top 0.00001%. What's the difference between people that you see, like Beast Mode, for example? Is it just God-given, or is there something to it? Do these guys have the secret sauce? Do they have a secret training pack, secret workshop map? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a big debate because I've seen a lot of people talk about, is it genetic or is it slash talent, or is it just the grind? And I definitely don't think, like, I've played 15,000 hours and I've never gotten to that level. That's why I kind of fell back on my fundamentals because that's kind of what I was strong at. So I definitely don't think everyone can actually get to that insane level. Like in terms of like Zen, like you said, Beast Mode, Squishy in his prime, like not everyone it's not achievable, and I don't think it was even achievable for me. I do think anybody can get extremely consistent just hitting the ball hard, and also just the simple control things, like just simple air dribbles, simple dribbles, getting super good at those, and also being a very smart player can actually still get you to be able to compete with those players. Like if you're good at challenging the ball, you can technically always get Zen off the ball, and you have the same amount of value if you're just always getting him off the ball, as opposed to always creating the play on the other end. Maybe not the same amount of value, but you get what I'm saying. So
right.
Yeah, it's definitely not achievable for everyone. If at least for me, like I just again played 15,000 hours, couldn't do it.
What about for a person watching at home? They're like, I'm an unk. I'm Torment. You're 24?
24.
I'm 24, Torment. There's no way.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get GC. Where does unk status come into play? When does unk status? At what MMR? At what skill level?
You could definitely get GC at 24. Well, 24 and above. I think you could be easily anywhere in your 20s and get GC or SSL. You might have the unk play style. I think it's definitely a bit of a play style, and you see it with like any older player I play, and including me, where it's just like, again, pure the fundamentals, just hitting the ball hard, being where you need to be. Again, those are things that are more not like the super technical things, right? It's just something that you just get over and over with reps. And I think anybody can do it. Again, it will take you a lot of hours to get super consistent, and obviously a good mentality and kind of knowing what you need to improve on. But I think anybody can get to GC for sure. And I think SSL too. Yeah,
I would tend to agree. I've seen it. I mean, there are people who are in their late 20s, 30s who are SSL. I think people don't understand how much there is between SSL and then the level that you have and that you were competing at. If I'm watching and I hear Torment was able to win a world championship with Squishy, not just win a world championship with him, actually be the MVP on that team, there's clearly some skills, you just call them the fundamentals. And you're telling me these fundamental skills that you have allowed you to win championships at the highest level. What are those fundamental skills? If I'm just the average person, what can I steal from your playstyle? What do I need to understand in order to be able to take all the best of what you learned from your 15,000 hours and implement it for me?
Yeah. My first thing is boost control. A lot of people don't really know how and when to stay in the play with like maybe less boost. I know there's someone watching many people watching right now that are boost guzzlers, I'll call them. They're just grabbing every big boost. They think they need 100 for every play, and you don't. You definitely don't. My play style is an example of that, where I would sit around the middle of the field grabbing a couple pads, and then I'd more likely be in a position to make the play. And again, sometimes you're in that position and then the ball goes over to where the big boost already is, and now you get the big boost kind of on your way. It's a good way to kind of just always make sure you're involved. And then once you realize you have the time to get the boost, that's when you get it. That's definitely number one. I think number two is also just being able to get consistently hard hits and also control the ball when you need to. I know those are completely opposite things, but kind of recognizing that. And one thing I think a lot of people don't do when they play, and I've noticed a lot with especially like GC players and champ players, pretty much everyone, they don't actually look at their opponents and kind of how they're positioned and where they're facing their car even is very important. Like, for example, if you go for an aerial kind of in your own half and you look at the opponents and they're both already turning facing backwards, expecting you to clear it, a lot of people will still just clear it at them because like they're already in the air. But you can actually adapt midair if you're looking for that. Maybe play a light touch to yourself. Now you kept possession, and that's the difference between your team having possession or not.
Little things like that.
very little things like that. And I actually remember I did like an eye tracker video on my YouTube channel like 7 years ago or something. And I know in the eye tracker video, I'm always looking at the opponent's cars. And I even had people ask me like, why are you looking at people's cars so much? Like, I think some people actually only look at the ball. And
Yep,
I
ball
actually
watching.
think that's a problem. Yes, exactly. They only look at the ball. And like the only way you get info and kind of recognize where the space is and kind of how to play the ball is if you actually look at the opponents. Also, your teammate is it's also very important to look at. That's how you kind of avoid double commits and know where to position. So looking at every player in the field when there's downtime is a super crucial skill in my opinion.
Yeah. One of the things that amazed me the first time I got coached by a pro player, because we all see you guys play at the pro level and we just think, wow, they're just better. They're just faster. They're better, faster, stronger, smarter. Couldn't be at their level. But when I talked for the first time with Shock, who was a pro, there are clips, he was on Sonics or Ghost Gaming playing against you when you were on version 1. And Shock explained to me, when he's playing the game, a lot of people think like he's just trying to go for the flashiest thing that he could go for at any given time. Every time he gets the ball, he's trying to do a highlight reel. And Shock explained to me, no, in this position, I could have gone for a double tap. I could have gone for a flip reset. It was the worst option because I looked at these 3 things. And the thing that's amazed me is that pros don't actually decide necessarily faster or always go for the flashier option, although they can. It's more about they're always looking at the opponent and picking the best play. And I think that's exactly what you're describing. It's about picking the best play. And that's what, half the battle. And beyond that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just recognizing where this, like every play or every touch has a meaning for like the best of the best players. Of course, everyone makes mistouches or, maybe makes the wrong decision, but every touch, like even if you see the flashiest player, example Zen, like every touch he has meaning and he's not just going out there to just freestyle on people. Obviously, he's that good where it ends up looking like it, but like all these touches he's making, these micro decisions are, based on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's very good at it, so usually it works.
Right. I want to transition to talking about coaching because it's one thing to win a championship. It's another thing to say, this is what I've done. Just watch my gameplay, just do what I do, versus transferring that skill to another person. After you finished playing on version 1, you coached one of your old teammates, Com, on OG Esports. And now you've also coached many players, just ranked players, everyday players. When you coach the average person, what do you tell them or what do you teach them that gets the most, wow, never thought of that reaction? Or, wow, I didn't even realize I do that.
I think the one thing that I tend to focus on a lot is kind of players like roles in rotation and how they kind of fit in each spot. Because again, the best players can play each spot. First, second, and third man is kind of what I'm referring to. And a lot of people don't know where to go. A lot of times, like going from first man, you're rotating back. You don't know where to go. Or they do know, or they think they know where to go and they get it wrong. So I do teach that a lot. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I didn't really think of it like that. And I guess the example I'll give for this that I get a lot, especially even like up to GC, even most of them don't do this, even some SSL teams and players, where if you're rotating back as first man, a lot of people just think, oh, I just got to get back and go get the corner boost and go back post. I see that so much. But if you have a teammate that's on the backboard, say, and you have a teammate, the other one's like challenging, maybe the ball's in the sidewall or the corner, you don't actually want to just, tuck in back post and have 2 people back. And so usually as first man, first thing I'll tell you is rotate down the middle. Unless you have time to go get boosts, like getting those pads down the middle will get you back quicker. And then you're kind of looking for a demo there because a lot of times there will be a player sitting there, right? He's just out mid following maybe a pass, right? And usually that's kind of on the opposite side or the mid side. And then you kind of want to, maybe there's not a demo chance or maybe you don't get the demo. Boom, you're still rotated in. And now you want to stay out there in the middle because now you're the guy that's going to cut the next pass, or maybe your guy that's challenging in the wall or the corner gets beat and the ball is coming to you. And now you want to be there to challenge. And if you're at the back post, odds are you're awkward and you're getting beat in those scenarios and you're kind of covering the same area if your other teammate's already backboard. That's just one example, I guess, of that. That's like the big one where a lot of people are like, oh, I never really thought of that. And like, again, not a lot of people do it, besides the people at the highest level, I would say.
Right. Just going back post because I know back post is good versus looking, hey, there's somebody already there. I can help more in the middle. You talked about demos, pathing along the middle, collecting small pads. How much do these things actually matter? Or are they just things people say like, oh yeah, you should grab more boosts, you should look for demos? How much impact do they actually change in games?
It's super important. I can think of like even pro, analyzing gameplay where I saw one player made the decision to leave on pads because he realized, oh, I need to get back here, and he saved a goal, or he cut a pass that he wouldn't have been there for if he decided, oh, I'm just going to steal their corner because I'm already kind of in their half, or I'm going to go for the mid, which is obviously a lot out wider than going down in the middle. And I noticed that decision pretty much every time, and I always kind of emphasize it because there's so many players that again just default. I'm just gonna go get the mid boost or the corner boost, and then they're late to the play, and maybe they don't even realize, and they blame their teammate because their teammate maybe they got outplayed on the backboard or in front of your net while you're kind of just at the mid boost watching them, right? And think of like how many times you could maybe impact the play if again you just hustled down the middle, got your 3-4 pads, and then you cut the ball for them or you covered their force, right? Those things like actually help you rank up because you almost minimize your teammates' mistake to like goal against you ratio. I guess I just made that up on the spot, but
Right.
like the amount of times your teammates' mistake like actually matters and gets you guys to lose the game. But again, you're just back, not even helping them, so you kind of could prevent that if you recognize that more. And again, there are times you get big boosts. It's I'd have to see specific examples to actually, tell people which one's like right in the scenario. And again, it's a easy decision to mess up. And I'm not saying I do it perfect every time, but the more you can kind of get it right is the more you'll just like maximize your kind of gameplay and minimize your teammates like mess ups like actually affecting you.
That's how you impact games while not being the most mechanical player on the field, right?
Exactly.
Let's switch to talking about mechanics a little bit, because I know there are some people who are watching right now and are going, great, Torment won a world championship. I'm just going to write that off and say it was only because Torment was, he was gifted because he was playing the game, he was playing SARP. And okay, fine, but my teammate isn't squishy. I don't have beast mode on my team. So let's just go down all the list of excuses about why, you being MVP and winning a world championship, it doesn't actually work today. It doesn't work anymore. Let's just say the person's watching, they think, I have to be mechanical. What are the things where you're like, yes, you do have to be mechanical, but you don't need as much as you think? Or here are the things I would focus on if I were you watching. What do you find recommending to most players a lot of the time?
The first thing I will say is, and I hinted at it before, is those like when you recognize the space, maybe the opponents aren't facing you and you jumped early, being able to get a light touch with your wheels. I tell a lot of players this will help you kind of weigh the ball in front of yourself. Maybe you can drop it down. Obviously, the more advanced version is starting an air dribble, like where you see like those pro players like Zen, and again, bring up Zen, but like get those like glue touches where they start an air dribble midair, balls lobbed midair. Obviously, that's very hard. But the more simpler version is going up early, realizing you have the space in front of you and hitting it with your wheels and it drops down. Especially like your front two wheels, you get like a really light touch if you do it right. It's not a specific mechanic, but that one's probably the first one. And again, kind of ties into that as well. I would say, wall stops are very good because it's again helps you get a beat and then be able to go again and maybe get another beat. And if you can get 2 beats in a play, you'll probably end up scoring, especially in twos. Obviously, the net will be open. Those are probably the top 2, especially those are again a bit more advanced, maybe high champ to GC. I would definitely say those 2.
Can you hit GC or SSL without those crazy things, without flip resets, without crazy mechanics?
You can. I mean, I could probably go do it if I was given a challenge to not do it. I don't score many anyways. Even I'm like 2K or 2100. I don't score many flip resets. I'll be honest. So you can do it. It helps though. It obviously helps having the individual outplay ability. And again, like I said earlier, like the best players in the world have both, right? They can do everything right, fundamentally, positionally, and then when it comes time for them to beat 2 people in the air and score like a reset, they'll do it most of the time. So obviously both are very useful, but you definitely can do it without them.
Right. When you're coaching people today, where do you often tell them to start, or what do you find recommending to people as you coach them that maybe we have access today that you didn't have access to, that you feel like if you would have accelerated your improvement a ton, or that you wish you would have had when you were going pro?
Yeah. I mean, the Bach is about trading, and now it's in the game actually, so everyone can use it. Like where you can kind of roll the ball to yourself, lob the ball up to yourself. I think that's very useful. I use that a lot, and I think you'll see a lot of pro players use it because you can very easily, and again, if you don't have a lot of time to play too, it'll actually cut down time because you just spawn the ball in your car and start a dribble. You'll get more reps than if you have to drive up to it and pick it up every time or reset it to the middle. So using that is pretty useful. And again, lobbing the ball up so you could practice kind of getting those touches in the air, maybe the light touches, or you could practice getting power. stuff like that, and rolling the ball at yourself. And again, if you're just starting and you're a low ranked player, just generating power on your hits is good. So you could literally just like make the lob the ball up in the air and then let it bounce and like hit it off the bounce, or just again find ways that you can get power with the ball. There's a lot of different ways. I can't go into too many specifics besides obviously the one where you hit the ball off the bounce. I think is one I've noticed lower ranks don't pay attention to, like plat, even maybe. I mean, I think not most diamonds get it, but like plat and below, where like if you let the ball bounce first and you hit it off like a half volley, I think they call it, you'll get way more power, right? Because the ball is moving upwards as you hit it, so you'll probably get a clear that goes pretty high, stuff like that.
Right. I'm always amazed when I watch pro game play. I was on Twitch, pulled up a Drawley stream, one of the most mechanical players right now, arguably one of the best, top 10 contention, let's say. And there aren't many things all the pros do, but one thing all the pros do is they're spamming those D-pad shortcuts in free play, spawning the ball in their car, air dribbling. When they're in free play, watching a high-ranked player do free play is like completely different than watching my Diamond 2 friend who I went to college with do free play.
Yeah.
What can we actually learn from that besides just be better and air dribble the ball?
Yeah, I mean, some people do some unrealistic things. Like a lot of pros will use like unlimited flips and they're just flipping a million times in the air. I wouldn't do that. I don't know why they do that because I don't do it. But I think the stuff where you're seeing them spawn the ball is literally just efficiency stuff. Again, if you don't have a lot of time too, the more you spawn the ball on your car, it just saves time, right? And you just keep kind of go with the flow of it as well. Like maybe if you're practicing something specific, you want to do that only. But a lot of pros are just like they're in midair, maybe they miss they hit the ball somewhere and it's away from them. Now they're midair as they're flying. They'll spawn the ball in their car and they'll just start air dribbling off that, like stuff like that. Like you'll notice just they just want to have the ball as much as possible. And again, it's probably just not even thinking about it, but that's what they're doing. Another free play trick I have, which I actually know some pros do, and I used to do when I was bad at boost control, is actually turn off unlimited boost and use limited boost and just hit the ball around only grabbing pads. Could help you as well. Just like, again, maybe keep your movement up because it's pretty easy when you have unlimited boosts, and especially if you're like an inexperienced player, to just tape it down and just drive everywhere, which is also super unrealistic. So if you're not thinking about your boost control in free play, I would turn it off. Use limited. And again, you could practice grabbing pads as well. That'll help you grab pads in game naturally and maybe be a benefit there.
When I watch pros do free play, I'm amazed at, like, now when I watch versus even 5 years ago, the level of control and air roll control specifically I'll watch. So many pros I'm sure who you talked to say it's just a feel thing. You just have to learn how to have this insane level of aerial car control, be able to air roll left, air roll right. Is there anything specifically when it comes to that level of aerial car control and that level of air roll that you find yourself teaching or recommending, or that helps players? Or even when you were trying to understand air roll as a mechanic, how did you go about it? Or was it just a 15,000 hour feel thing?
A lot of it is going to be the time and just putting in the time in free play. And then also you'll get into games, notice you were doing things in free play. And I'm relating this mostly to when I learned directional arrow for the first time. And then I also added the second one. I didn't use left. And it felt like I was learning a new game both times, right? Like I look like I didn't know how to, air roll, basically. I couldn't keep the ball in the air and I would just whiff and stuff. It was bad. But I would free play with it a lot. I would realize, okay, maybe I feel pretty good. And I would go in a game and I was messing easy things up again, because there's actually things in game you do that you never do in free play. For example, challenging the ball, or like just certain movements as well. Just certain ways you play beats that you might not do in free play. So I would go in game and again try to get reps in game. But again, most of it's just gonna be reps. And maybe if you don't want to actually troll your games by learning directional air roll, or you're bad at air rolling, you maybe go in casual, like I said earlier. Might help you just for practice, just for reps. But again, most of that is actually going to be reps. There's not really too many tips you can do other than just knowing. I guess if you're air dribbling and air rolling, you just have to kind of master speed of the ball, and there's kind of a certain angle you need to be under the ball to kind of keep it in the air, which again is like something you could kind of easily like just look at players doing it and be like, oh, that's kind of where they are when the way they're pushing the ball.
Right. So you're telling me when you downloaded Rocket League, you didn't know how to air roll left or air roll right, and you had to learn it just like everybody else and flop around like a fish.
Yeah, and it didn't come out for a couple of years. Like it was just free air roll for like a few years, and then I want to say it was 2017, 2018 maybe. I remember that exactly because I remember Gimmick put it on and he started using it, and it was actually RLC season 6, the season we won. And people were like, "Why is Gimmick freestyling like this?" And he's just using directional air roll, and it was like kind of new at the time. I remember Justin used it a lot back then too. He was kind of like a pioneer for it. as well, and like that kind of what inspired me to switch is seeing like players like that using it. Obviously it was a little like different back then because the game was even newer. We're not almost 10 years deep, which is crazy to think about, but
Right.
yeah, it did.
So you remember when it came out? What was that like? I'm sure it was probably like the YouTube comment section on my air roll tutorial 4 years ago. This isn't even useful. Also, this is the wrong way to learn it. Also, this doesn't matter. Also, I can air dribble and flip reset without air roll, and I'm plat 2. Why would anybody need this? What was the discussion like at the pro levels? Did Squishy give you a call and he's like, dude, you got to learn this. This is the future. Or was it not like that?
It wasn't that immediate too, because it came out and I don't think people were all jumping on it. I think people were just like, well, first off, I didn't know, a lot of people didn't know it was different because it just says air roll left, air roll right, and you had to go bind it. And you didn't realize, I thought it would just be the same air roll, but it was pushing me in a certain direction, but it actually air rolls your car in a completely different kind of spin. So I think it took people a little bit to realize that. So yeah, it wasn't an immediate thing. And I don't remember anybody telling me to do it. I literally just watched, it was especially Justin doing it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should kind of, put this on and practice it. And again, it felt really weird. And it is funny, like stuff like that where it came out late. And I remember the flip reset also wasn't in the game when it came out. That actually got patched in by Sonic. So a lot of people might not know that because it was like a year or two after. And it's really funny too, because it took a while for people to think or realize it was useful. And it's funny, people thought it was useless when it came out.
Yeah.
And it's funny how big it became. I even made a training pack called like Flip Reset Training Pack, and it's on my YouTube somewhere. And the training pack's terrible because every flip reset is like me flying to meet the ball midair and flip reset it, and there's no like actually off the wall flip resets because I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah.
And there's people even in my comments that are like, "This is useless." Like people actually, like, you could literally go look, and they're probably still there. And it's just funny how like it kind of evolved like that, and how much the game's evolved since then.
Right. For air roll and flip resets, you talk about those things were things you had to learn. What was the process like already being a pro player, saying, I'm a pro, I know how to do these things, I don't need to learn something new, I don't need to do that? Obviously, you were open to change, you learned it. What's the mentality like on that? How do you think about the game? What do you notice about people who played pro as long as you did versus people who played pro for a shorter amount of time? As far as the mental goes, as far as their attitudes, as far as, all the good and the bad, I'm sure of, playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars with money on the line with other 16-year-old and 17-year-old kids. What are some observations or reflections you have from all that you learned doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely relate to this. And I think most pros, especially because compared to most other competitive games, we don't have any content updates, like where you get a new agent or hero, or whatever you want to call it, legend, like to play with, and like new mechanics that just get added into the game by the devs. So when we discover something that's actually useful, it's actually super fun to kind of just go practice it. It's something new. And again, the meta evolving, that's like the only way our meta evolves is if people discover new things, either again mechanically or I guess tactically. Kind of remember the demo takeover of like 2019, 2020, when everyone just started spamming demos. Before that, it used to be considered cringe. I was probably one of them that would get tilted by it because I was kind of an unk. It took me a while to adapt. That was probably the longest it took me to adapt to anything, was the demo meta, because I just hated demos and I would always complain about them. And then eventually I was like, all right, kind of got to get up with the times. But
yeah,
it would always be super fun to kind of learn a mechanic. And I remember specifically, this one's actually not a useful mechanic, at least yet, but the feet licks jump.
Yeah.
You know what that is? The one where you get your flip off the wall and it's like super weird and hard to do. When people discovered that, it was like there was like so many pros. I was one of them, going live, just sitting there practicing it for hours. It was actually like super fun. And it turns out it was super hard to actually replicate, and I could do it like one at every like 20 times at my best. But like stuff like that, I think pros actually look forward to, because again, we don't get it very often, and especially now we're 10 years into the game. There's really not much to discover. I'm assuming there's nothing new. I mean, maybe something. I'm hoping something new will maybe spawn in or whatever. Maybe Unreal Engine 5 will come out and it'll be a whole new game. Who knows? But that stuff's awesome for pros, at least.
I didn't think about that. You were a pro while the flip reset was discovered, the ceiling shot, air roll, directional air roll. I forgot that was a discovery. How else has Rocket League changed over the years? Where do you see the meta going in the next few years?
I think it's definitely, again, like I said, maybe Unreal Engine 5 comes out and the game mechanically changes. Still to be determined on that. But I think if it's just Rocket League as it is right now, I think players will just get more and more consistent with these crazy sidewall skims and psychos. First off, like if players just have this every time, it just changes completely how you have to play it. And again, there's some players that are very consistent with it. Like my first example was like probably beast mode. And again, I might be biased because that used to be my teammate, but anytime I saw him going for a skim, I was full trusting it. Like I saw him go for a psycho, I'm flying downfield to go follow it because like I knew he would hit it. But that's like, again, there's like very few players that do that. And I think once we get years and years down the line, these players just spam practicing that in free playing in games. And trust me, in my SSL games, I see the randoms doing that, and they're just throwing my game by missing. They miss the ball most of the time, right? But they're all trying it, and eventually everyone will be consistent with it. So that's definitely the first thing. Is just you're gonna see the ball skimming, all across the field eventually. And then also the opposite is like getting these light touches in the air, again these glue touches where you see a player fly at the ball full speed, and they randomly just stick it to their car on a floating ball and take an air dribble and go reset over a guy. Like that stuff is super hard to do. That's like the max of the skill ceiling right now is like being able to do that stuff consistently. And I think once we have that, that'll be like the peak of our game as far as I can think.
Right.
And again, the demos as well. Everyone demoing still. That'll never go away.
So what you're telling me is there are going to be 15-year-olds running around demoing me while their 13-year-old younger brother is psychoing it bottom corner of my net. This is RLCS.
Maybe, yeah. Or the guy that's sticking the ball to his car at light speed and you're just not getting chased at the same time. You have no way to defend it. Yeah.
You're getting air dribble bump demoed while this guy air dribbles behind him. Yeah. What are you most excited for personally for you to do in the next few years with Rocket League? What are your goals? What's next for you?
I mean, right now my goals is just building, kind of on the coaching side right now, right? Doing individual coaching. I've been streaming as well. So just kind of doing that and connecting with my community because I kind of took like a few years when I retired and I was coaching. I didn't really do anything and I kind of regret that. So I'm kind of now doing that here and, trying to kind of enjoy it as much as I can, I guess. But that's kind of been my focus right now.
Yeah, I love it. Torment, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Where can people follow you? Where do they find more of you?
Of course. My Twitch is at Torment RL, and then my Twitter /X is just at Torment. Those are my two main ones, and then from there you can find my other links: YouTube, my Metafy where I coach, and check me out.
Sweet. Go click the link in the description. Get one-on-one coaching with Torment, or go follow. Say Luke sent me on one of his streams. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Of course, man. It was good talking to you.